getting on to kind of tradition, I love our wonky orchards. Our trees are often undermanaged. They're often pretty stressed. It's a very sort of low maintenance approach, very natural. You know, not in every case, but in terms of the artisan craft end, the land was always double used, so there'll be animals grazing on it, that kind of thing. And you know, I think a lot of guys from the States come over and they're like, God, look at your orchards. You know, no one's pruned it. It's covered in mistletoe, but they do have a charm. You know, visually for me, I love the way they look. I love how wonky they are. And again, we've got much taller trees because we don't hand pick. They add to a kind of a beauty. Scab, no problems whatsoever for going inside. That's quite common. People do often get shocked at the quality of the fruit when they see it going in. It's like, is that the stuff you're throwing out? No, that's the stuff we're putting in. Some people super clean it up. A lot of people kind of bung it all in. We try and take the sticks and the rocks out.
But not the rats and mice.
No, the rats and mice are fine, yeah. And so just make sure they stop swimming before they go in. There's a guy called Roger Wilkins, some of you may have heard of or met, I don't know, he's pretty legendary. He's always saying the only apples you can't use are black ones because there's nothing left in them. So often if it's sort of, you know, that amber brown colour, it goes, that you would never eat and you just touch and it'll squish, he'll often use those, a lot of guys will use those. I think you've got to be a bit careful with some of the stuff going in, but again it depends on your methods really. Some people like it totally wild and funky, some people like it mega clean. Traditionally speaking, you get rid of the worst of it. And they're lovely places, traditional orchards, you know, things like that. There's a lot of wildlife in there. And again, not everyone's into it. I think, for me, it just adds to the charm, you know, the culture of a traditional orchard. Again, that tree should have been thinned, but, you know, that will always be on its side now. That's just the way it'll be. There's a really nice example of one of our older orchards. It's, you know, lovely standard trees, and that goes on for acres and acres. It's just mad, you know, driving through there. You can see where the sheep have been in. You know, they're all kind of trimmed up to a certain height. That's just the sheep munching the bottom of the trees. They'll be pulled out a month or two before harvest begins. They often let the grass grow a bit longer to cushion the fall of the apples a little bit. And as the fruit is on the ground, it's picking up more yeast, or the yeasts are developing on the skins, because we do a lot of that traditional fermentation. So, yeah, no one will pick the fruit by hand. Most people will let it fall. But if you're getting towards the end of the season, or you need to do all the collecting, sometimes people shake the trees, either using a tractor or a proper tree shaker. Yeah. But it goes down before it comes in, so to speak. You know, there's no one collecting it in nets. I think they might, for peri pears, they might collect in nets. So cider fruit's often a lot later than culinary fruit. So yeah, the temperatures are getting lower. I mean, it's quite easy to, you know, it's quite common for frost. And this is a classic, you know, cider scene. These guys are community presses, so they'll gather local cider orchards, apples from the orchards. They'll gather together one night and they'll press once a year. And they'll sell it in May at the May Day Mayfair to raise money for the, you know, new village hall roof or something. Very social. People bring cheese and sausages, whatever, and everyone just gets stuck in. Everyone takes turns. You can see our great hygiene standards there. Pouring it straight in through a sieve. Lovely old French press. That's from Brittany. Never seen one like that before. There's nothing else in there. You just slap them together. Somehow it works. There's the scratter, a bit of two-stroke there. And that's inoculating with wild yeast. But yeah, it's quite a common scene there. And it's the magic of the cider shed, that social thing again, I love it. You see how dark the juice is coming out. I hear a lot of people here talk about oxidised. I like to say oxygenated, you know. It's just winding the crank, press it down. And it's, you know, again, I love watching people watch. I love how, it's like when you go through, I was at an apple processing factory yesterday, just watching thousands of apples. Just moving along through the water, it's slightly hypnotic. And again, getting the kids involved, you know, for me, that's part of it. If you guys are in the UK visiting and you get invited into the cider shed, you've got to go. It's kind of, you're in then, you know. The magic is in the shed. I suppose it's the equivalent of the cellar door you guys have here, but it's generally one single light bulb hanging down, which they don't always turn on, you know. It's concrete floors, loads of mud, tinny radio in the back. They're pretty basic often, and it's kind of where it all happens really. There's a lot of people storing stuff in oak. I think oak is used because the barrels are around, not to really impart flavour. It's not like we need to get tannins in our cider on the whole. We have a lot of tannin. They look good, and I think people like to see cider coming out of oak in the UK. But these barrels are often so old, there's no flavour left in them. But they were the ones Grandpa was using, so we're going to use them too. They look great. I love them. But this is quite classic sort of stuff you'll see in the UK. You know, cider was being made before we knew about the science behind the fruit. And it was done on a much less technical basis. It was done on what it tastes. It was all done on taste and, you know, how the fruit translates through, I think. And I think, yeah, you guys will come at it from a different angle because you've got the different fruit. You know, you don't have as much in terms of cider fruit. So you have to work an awful lot harder, I think, to make an interesting drink because you just don't have the same toolkit. It's much easier to make good cider with cider fruit than it is to make good cider with culinary apples. And I think our traditions have just sprung up around that, and they've ended up tasting the way they taste because of, you know, our lack of intervention in many cases. And we're quite capable of making absolutely revolting cider in Somerset. I really make a point of telling everyone that. Just because it's cider and it's from Somerset, it doesn't mean it's going to be good. There's a lot of people that will just scrump a load of apples, squash it down. I've made some cider, you know, it's going to be great. And it's pretty bloody average or revolting sometimes. So it's we could learn from you guys actually a lot about basic standards, you know, and understanding what's going on. I think you guys work really hard on your technical processing, you know, and your knowledge. We probably just work really hard on drinking it and trying to get it to hurry up and be ready. I think you're in a good position though, and that's where you're at in Australia, I think. It's early days. You're trying to figure out what Australian cider is and where it wants to go, and you're probably going to pull in influences from all around the world, probably quite strongly from Europe, because, you know, given the shared heritage. One of your biggest disadvantages is being 10,000 miles away from the home of cider, if you want. But that's also your biggest advantage, you know. It's the flip side of the coin. So there's another thing we do in the UK, straw pressing. I don't know, I think one or two people have tried it here. We don't all do it. Visually, it looks great. You know, like today would be great if someone could be asked to set up a straw press and actually do some for the public to see. It really captures people's minds. They just, I can't believe it, you know. I don't know if you're allowed to give the juice away. But again, you know, this happens all the time in the UK. Apple days and things like that. The kids will all be drinking the juice. It won't get fermented. It's just for the demonstration on the day. But there's no worries. It's hard to see here because he's using yellow apples. I asked him, what varieties have you got? He goes, we've got the yellow ones. I said, what else have you got? Well, the red ones are coming next week, you know. If he put the red ones in, you could see that, you know, the difference between the straw and the apples a bit, but you can just about make it out. So hopefully you can all get the gist of what the straw's for. It's basically just holding the pomace together while you squish it. It acts like a little filter, but they've been making cider on this farm for 800 years. And they're really keen to sort of maintain those traditional methods of doing it. It's a lot of fun. It's very social. You know, it's a good bit of banter in the cider shed again. But you can see him just sort of folding the corners in, tucking it round. Yeah, and here's a slightly more, I think I did two of these. I shot all these on my phone. I realised I had to shoot it for a book I was doing, and it was the one day I didn't have my camera with me, so I did it all on my phone. But, you know, you can just see how, you know, they've got thatching straw. So they use thatching straw. It's got much longer stems. They find it much easier. When you're building up the cheeses, you put a layer down. Yeah, you can get it. We've got the former here. The straw goes one way, then the other way, and you're dolloping it on the top there, folding it over, and building it up. You've got the little pegs holding the former up. And you've got the juice coming out over there into a half barrel. But again, you can just see the people in the background and the kids watching it. They love it. I think it's a really nice, if you can do stuff like that, you don't have to. If the council won't let you do it, don't do it, obviously. But visually, it looks great, and it really helps people understand. So this is Andy. He's a Welsh cider maker. He's all man in his pink little hat there. Makes really nice cider hallets. But there's not many people growing apples on Welsh mountainsides. There's a fair bit of Perry actually up there. But this is Mike in his cider shed. Weirdest, biggest press you've ever seen. I don't know why it's quite so long, but there you go. Again, and that's quite common. You'll see it just poured straight into the barrel, and the bung is left off, and that's bringing itself to life. I love the fact I get in farmers' cars and I go around through the orchard with them, and they've got all these apples on their dashboard, and some of you guys probably do that. But I love the way it makes your car smell. I mean, if I'm going anywhere, I do a lot of driving for my photography. I'll often just take a bunch of apples and leave them on the dashboard because my car just smells awesome the whole time. You really get the aromas of the fruit then, I remember going over to France a few years ago in the autumn, and I took some cider apples over because they smell nice, and I could give them out to the cider makers over there. They were very interested. And actually coming back, using French apples coming back to the UK, the aroma had changed in my car because their fruit smells so lovely, so different. So I think that's a good way of, getting to know the aromatics on your fruit. Just leave it in there till it's February or whatever. Or no, it's probably the other way around here, but yeah. This was Britain's oldest cider maker. He's died now, but he's really the epitome of what British cider is, I think. A little old boy making it in his shed. Lovely guy. I think he was sort of 89 or something. And it wasn't amazing cider, but he just totally nailed what British farmhouse cider is. The fact that it's kept alive in small sheds, people like this doing it all the time. This is the tradition, this is, it's people like him that just totally kept it alive, through the good times and the bad times. We've got this great duty exemption, which I'll talk about in a minute, but that allows people like him to make cider and, not really make much money on it, but if you have a passion for it, it's not going to cost you any either. And this was probably taken about a year before he died. He had a funeral. Poor old guy, very poor, no money at all, but so many people turned up for his funeral. And I wanted to document it. It's kind of the passing of an era. And it's amazing how many people came. Just a lovely guy, Frank. So much respect. Pubs and pints. Britain is known for its pubs, and I love the fact our pubs are the way they are. No pokies, as you call them over here. Often there's no music. The traditional old man's pubs, I love them. And that's often where you find a good cider. Imperial pints. I'm very proud of them. That's very British. Very hard to find other places. I'm always disappointed when I have to get a little pot of something because it's gone by the time I turn around. I need to get another one. 568 millilitres. Again, I'm very proud of it, so I just make a point of including that. This side was set up for the USA, but actually I don't think the prices are all that different. British cider is very cheap. Again, because we don't hand-pick our fruit, I think that has a massive cost impact further down the line. It's amazingly cheap. Some people will argue it's too cheap, British cider. In the UK ever, we have a cider museum. It's great there. It's not always the easiest place to get to, but it's up in Herefordshire. Really nice place to visit, really educational. I think they struggle a little bit for numbers, so they could certainly do with your support. And it's very easy to spend you could probably spend the day there if you want. It's not actually that massive, but if you take your time wandering around the cellars and look at things like this, it's unbelievable. That was the way they were aging the cider back in the days. It's the original Bulmer's site. It used to be really, really big. It's much smaller now. Cider was actually, or Perry was known as English wine at some stage. And we were bottle fermenting before the French. I make a point of telling everyone that. We were nailing it before they were. They didn't have our glass. Yeah, thank you. That's all I've got to say about that. So any questions, anything anyone wants to talk about, let's do it.